Right. After the end of going over this stuff here, give you an idea of what you can do practice-wise since you have some extra time. Um, Very volume-based approach. Volume meaning like lots of the same thing. So you have more volume than the speed drill stuff. So anyway, starting with this first exercise, this is to help train your index finger to mute the B string better. So when you're doing this, go ahead and keep your index finger on the E string the whole time, meaning don't remove it at any point of this exercise until you need it for that final note to resolve the exercise. So when you're doing this, you get your finger fretting the E string, but you also need to make sure that it's underneath the B string, so it's barely touching it. So when you hit both strings, you only hear that E string ringing out. You might hear a little clunk of the B string. That's fine. It's really just there to make sure that when you let go of that B string, that it's not going to vibrate. Because if you're not holding or not muting the B string with your index finger, what happens is, can you hear that ringing out? I'll do it in in an area where it will be a very dissonant sound. So that doesn't sound very pretty. So hopefully you can hear that. Well, it's definitely ringing out there. The longer I hold that, the more you can hear that very abrasive tone come in. So that's why we're doing this, to make sure that when you let go of the B string, it's not making a bunch of messy noise. So yes, just because we play with distortion doesn't mean we want it to sound dirty and messy. Anyway, so yeah, this will be a metronome drill. So here's what we have at 60. See the index finger staying down the whole time. Until here. That last note. Now when you're putting your pinky down, make sure that it's trying to show here. See, it's not completely on the tip. It's not like this. It's still barely touching the E string. So what's going to cancel that E string note from ringing out is the pinky going down. So when you fret the B string, your pinky finger should just be barely touching the top of the E string. And that's what's going to keep that note from ringing out. Okay, so 120 now. $160. The hell am I doing? Take two. And 240. Ooh, I missed a note. This one's kind of tough to go really fast. Let's see why. You're doing that bit of an inside picking here. Basically, that means when you're switching strings, your pick is in between the E and the B string. So this one's not going to be crazy fast, but that's fine because it's working on that muting. That's the important thing here. Okay, number 2 is another speed drill. Making sure that you're, and the part of the goal is making sure that you're strumming all 3 strings. You know, if you're muting properly with that left hand, you can certainly strum it wider than you might normally do. just to ensure that you're actually hitting them all. So I'll do that, and when I demonstrate, I'll strum much wider than just 3 strings to show, you know, how it's possible, what it looks like. So your index finger, just make sure it's curved just enough so it's muting out the G, B, and E. In fact, my pinky finger is actually going to be muting out the G string as well. In fact, that's probably going to be the finger that mutes most of all. So I talked quite a bit about muting today. And so just try, you know, when you're playing, look at your fingers and see, you know, if they're touching the adjacent strings. So like if you have a finger on the D string, you'll want that finger to be up underneath the A string and on top of the G string. So like right here, like my fingers do this stuff automatically now. Lucky me, right? I think one of the main reasons is because, you know, when you're first starting out and you're playing in a band or trying to play in a band and you have the amps cranked like crazy and you have a shit ton of feedback, you learn very quickly how to mute out unwanted noise, and this is one of the things. So my index finger is barely touching the bottom, or the underneath part of the A string, and the top part of the G. So that's something you could do. It's like practice muting stuff this way, and I've got my thumb over the top here because that's very instinctive for me to mute the E that way. You can do stuff like this to practice your muting. Just kind of play a melody. You can do that on the G string. You'll definitely hear some clinking and whatnot while you're purposely hitting all 3 strings. But it shouldn't sound like this. That's pretty obvious I'm not muting the other strings. And now I am. So, a little something you can fiddle with. Anyway, chords. Speed picking. Here we go at 60. Alright. See how big my strum is? Why am I repeating? I'm so used to repeating, that's probably why. So you see how big my strum is here? Everything I'm doing, I get the early stages, the speed stuff here, as I'm doing very much like my wrist is cocked this way a bit. I'm over exaggerating right now. And I'm kind of strumming by rotating my arm like this. So it's kind of rotating it this way. The faster I go, my picking mechanics change. 120. $160. $200. See the difference now? See, now I'm got this part of my hand anchored on the body of the guitar. Butt of the pick is pointing up. That's what allows me to play my fastest. I think we've talked about that. Hey, if we haven't talked about that, let me know. Like 240 right here. I don't know if I can do this. I couldn't get many more repetitions than that. Jeez. But yeah, having that anchor point here on the body of the guitar and tilting your arm this way so that your pick, the butt of the pick, is going up. That's it's called upper pick slanting, and it's very helpful and necessary for me in order to hit the speeds of apparently 240. That includes chords, well, especially with chords like that. Anyway, this is not going to be the same. There's no way you can do an anchor point on this one. However, this is also to ensure that you're strumming far enough, and you're still, like, again, the idea is, like, I really want you to work them arm muscles to get them used to going back and forth quickly. So eventually we'll be getting back to single string stuff. Let me turn the volume down a bit here so I decrease the distortion some. Okay, so here we go at 60. And remember, strum real big, real wide. Bigger movement than you think you have to. I want you to make a point to exaggerate your strumming here. And again, I'm doing like kind of this thing here, where the arm is definitely rotating the wrist. So I'm not like trying to make my wrist go back and forth like this. That feels really strange too. It's not doing that. It's doing this. Arm is rotating. So that's what's happening here. So arm is rotating when I'm strumming this stuff. Alright, 60 beats a minute. Big arm movements too. And really get that last chord of big old strum down there. Alright, 120. And your arm will get will tire out much faster on this one, and that's fine. $160. Let's see if I can do 200. This ain't gonna be easy. Oh, that was terrible. I'll try it again. Ugh. See, that would definitely not be good enough to put up on one of those daily Instagram and Facebook clips. So, yeah, it's a tough one. This one's a tough one because there's no possible way to be able to anchor your hand and go back and forth. I can go across 3 strings this way, but 6? No, that's too much. I'm gonna... The heck? What happened here? One moment. Yeah. Strange. Okay. Yeah, I know what the heck happened. Anyway, I was gonna jump ahead to this one. And yeah, so let's go over the other speed picking, or the speed drill anyway. Not much picking involved. So, again, I know I'm repeating myself a bunch here, but I'm doing it because I care. Because I care. It is very important to remember 100% perfect. Every single thing you do, you want to get it as 100% perfect as you can before you increase that speed. If you have any doubts whether the notes were all there or not, then don't go on. Back off a little bit and stick on the speed you know is really good. And that's going to kind of tie into what the volume type stuff I'll discuss at the end of this, or to finish the video, right? So here we go at 60. starting at the 60 is going to be good because it helps warm your brain up into playing things as best as you can. You can definitely tell if you're playing it correctly at 60 beats a minute or not. So you want it, yeah, again, obviously done correctly. Any doubts, not good enough. $160. $200. That was an interesting harmonic. One more time. All right. 240. Okay. Let's see, which number 4 here. Oh, there you go. That's how I want it to look. Okay. So this one is just your rhythm work, counting, and working on cleaning up the upstrokes on your gallop. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4. Alright, next one, number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 E and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and oh my god, I screwed up. So I feel like something flew in my nose too. Got one of those little gnats. I'm trying to ignore my nose feeling weird and keep count. Anyway, let's see if I can do better now. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 E and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 E and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a 3 E and a 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 okay. Volume training. So one thing that helped me immensely with some stuff that was absolutely kicking my ass. So there's only so much that can be done doing metronome speed work. I will always say it is the most efficient manner to get as fast as you can in the shortest amount of time. Now, sometimes you need a bit more though. Something so difficult that is just mechanics are just not clicking as fast as you need them to. Controls just not there as well as you want it to be, and so on. So let's say, for example, like the thing from last week or a couple weeks ago, I guess. So that, like that exercise there. Let's say, I don't know, like, what if like 180 is where you are no longer 100% certain, 100% certain or sure that you are playing 100% correct. So remember, every note has to be obviously heard. It's very important. Obviously heard, okay? So let's say it's 180. We'll back off like 40 beats a minute and then do a very long practice session where you just do that at 140. And what I would do, it was like I don't remember what riff it was. One of them I did was that Animals as Leaders riff. I think it was some, Trilogy by Yngwie Malmsteen. Ended up playing the crap out of that to an episode of Cheers. So basically what I usually don't advise people watching anything while they're practicing. However, if it's something you can do over and over again and you don't have to really pay attention to what your hand is doing too much, you got to pay attention to it somewhat. But playing the same thing for over 20 minutes straight can get really damn boring. So that's why I have like something mindless on in the background. So this way it kind of helps me from getting too bored. So like, you got it at 140. So while the show's going, I played that wrong, didn't I? I didn't go all the way down here, did I? And you might be surprised how tired your hand will get and your arm is going to get if you play that for 20 minutes straight. The idea is to do no breaks if possible, but most likely you're going to feel fatigued and be like, nope, I gotta take a break, and that's fine. Take little breaks here and there when needed. So that kind of ties into what I said, how like if you play something 1,000 times in a row slow but perfect, that's going to be far more beneficial than playing something sloppy and fast 1,000 times. Because when you do that, the slower stuff, 100% correct a ton of times, it's just reinforcing good mechanics, good movement patterns and whatnot. And you also definitely remember what the heck to do a lot better. So this way, your brain, your hand, and everything are far more better prepared to handle the faster speeds. In fact, the more I tinker with this idea, I'm starting to lean towards more the idea of possibly alternating days of speed work, volume work, speed work, volume work. I've had some students do kind of a combination of that. The only time people seem to have the biggest struggle with metronome work is when they're unaware of mistakes being made. So doing something at a volume approach where you know for certain that it's done correctly, I find can be very beneficial. So I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, you want more clarification on it, please let me know. And if any questions come up when you're out on vacation, let me know. Yeah, I think that covers it all. Well, I hope you have fun and you get the rest you need. And I will plan on seeing you October 7th, you said? Double check. October 7th. All right. we'll see you then.